Pitching a peculiar type of property today is Simon Taylor from Safari Group. Simon, hi. Thanks for coming in today here on The Deal.
Ed, thank you for having me.
Now, tell me, how you're feeling right now?
A little nervous, actually. It's kind of, a little bit peculiar to be presenting like this.
And you're presenting quite an interesting project today. How have you chosen which properties to present to the Dealmakers?
I've thought about who I'm presenting to, and I think from our perspective, it's best to put our best foot forward, which is an investment property we've got right now, which is selling incredibly well. And so I thought I'd present Ellerslie to the panel.
Fantastic. And anything that you're worried that they might ask you about?
What colour my underwear are? I don't know. Nothing in particular. No, we've got nothing to hide. So.
And what are you hoping to get out of this pitch today to the Dealmakers?
The dream would be 3 yeses, but I believe that's pretty hard to get these days. So just we'll see. We'll keep it in my back pocket, but hopefully 3 yeses would be fantastic.
Simon, we wish you the best of luck with your pitch today with the Dealmakers, and we'll talk to you after your presentation.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
The developer aims to leave with 3 yeses in his back pocket, but will the Dealmakers' probing questions mean he'll really leave with his knickers in a twist?
Good evening, Dealmakers. My name is Simon Taylor from Safari Group, one of the directors, and I would like to present to you tonight an opportunity in Ellerslie for investment, the residences. So I wanted to bring to you tonight a project that we've got underway. It's started construction, and it's in Ellerslie in Auckland. Now, the project itself is a 12-storey building. The bottom 4 floors are hotel, which we as a company retain ownership, management rights of the hotel business itself. The benefit to that is, of course, that we remain invested in the project like our investors do. We don't simply sell our units and walk away. Above that is residential apartments, and there's a mix in there of studio, 1 bedroom, 1 in study, and dual keys. And if I may, I just want to focus on one particular type of unit this evening, and that's the dual key units. So a dual key, although you probably are aware, many are not, it is a 2-bedroom, or 2 units, I should say, on 1 title. So as you enter the door from the corridor, you're met with a small lobby space of about 3 square metres. You turn to the left, there's a 1-bedroom unit. You turn to the right, there's a studio. Now, the benefit of that is it is the same area as a 2-bedroom unit, be it around 75 square metres. However, the return on that unit when you're renting it out as a studio and a 1-bedroom is significantly higher. So the yields are a lot greater than a simple 2-bedroom unit use of that space. It also gives you a lot more flexibility. So we've seen examples where people have purchased a dual key unit. They have lived in one side and they've rented out the other side, which has effectively covered their mortgage given the rates where they are today. We've also seen an elderly lady who purchased a dual key. She lived on one side and rented out the studio side with the intention of, as she aged in place, having a nurse stay in that and looking after her. Other examples are, of course, just simply renting out the 2 or living in 1 and growing in place. When you need 2 bedrooms, you can simply open both the interior doors and use that front door off the corridor as your main entry. Each unit within the dual key has its own kitchen. So, of course, there's a benefit to that. If you've got a teenage son that needs to be taken care of, he can have his own space. You can have your own space. Pretty good deal during lockdown. On top of that, the project itself, what attracted us to this particular site is its proximity to the train. If you look at any successful urban development around the world, there's one thing that you can see in common, and that's getting more and more consistent, and that's close proximity to transit. This site itself is a 5-minute walk to the Ellerslie train station, where trains leave every 10 to 15 minutes throughout the day, and in 8 minutes you will be in Newmarket, and in 15 minutes you'll be in downtown Britomart, Auckland, which is fantastic. That just paints a picture for demand for your renters, and of course is a great location to live yourself. That concludes my pitch this evening, and I welcome your questions.
A confident presentation of these 2-bed dual key units. But will the Dealmakers see these high-yielding apartments as a 2-for-1 special, or will they see it more as double the trouble? First to turn up the heat, the Prince of Property, Andrew Nicol.
Hi Simon, I'm Andrew. Great pitch today. Can you tell us a bit about the Safari Group and their background?
Safari Group started in 1996. It was started by my father, Steve Taylor, and his partner, Robert Neal. So it's effectively 2 families. We've been around since '96, which puts us at 25 years old, and we're a second generation family business. So Rob's two boys, Liam and Kyle, are actively in the company as Steve's sons, one of which I am, and my brother Damien is also involved in the company. To complement us, we have 2 additional partners in the development side, and we have 2 additional partners in construction. So as a company, we sort of start to finish, we're fully integrated, which gives us a benefit of having our own construction team in-house. So a lot of the headaches that you get from other developers we don't have because we build for ourselves. So there's none of those stop-start, variation, cost extras. That's all us all the way through the project.
And tell us about other projects that you've done of similar size in the past.
So other projects that Safari have been involved in, any one cycle we'll look after 3 projects, and we do that just to maintain our quality and our whole process. We don't want to grow beyond 3 projects a cycle. So during this cycle, we're just about to complete one in Wellington, and that's a Ramada with residences on top of that. And that's a retrofit of an existing office building to a residential building, and that'll be completing in about 5 days. We've also just recently completed a Ramada in Newmarket, and that's another large project as you come off the Gillies Ave off-ramp in Auckland. Prior to that, the last cycle, there was a LQ hotel and residences in Ramada and a Ramada in Queenstown. Both are fairly iconic, Remarkables Park, 2 large buildings down there, and the Ramada in Queenstown Central you can see as you're coming down off Franklin Road.
So following on from the LQ Hotel in Queenstown, now that was the first of the LQ hotels in New Zealand. Do you think it will be a problem working with that particular brand in Ellerslie when it's relatively new to New Zealand?
Not at all. We've got the support of Wyndham. So Wyndham Group is actually the largest hotel brand in the world. And LQ, although it is new to New Zealand, there are, last time I heard there was around about 930 in the world. So it is quite a substantial brand in their portfolio. Ramada is certainly one that Kiwis are a bit more familiar with, but part of the process and the support from Wyndham is to make sure that brand is recognised in New Zealand. So this is, I suppose, the second of 5 that we will be looking to roll out on behalf of Wyndham. And then these projects, like the one in Queenstown, we own and maintain the management rights to that hotel. So we're there the whole way through.
Thank you.
Hi Simon, I'm Slade. Great pitch, great cash flow. I love anything that has good cash flow, so this is of high interest to me. Let's go back a little bit in time on the Ramada projects, and can you tell me a little bit about the purchasers who bought them? What tenants did they have? Were they long-term tenants, or were they more transitory tenants, or what were they, do you know?
Yeah, so the Ramada itself is just for the hotel product. So on top of that, if you look at Newmarket as a recent example that's completed, there's no regulatory or regulations, I should say, that prevent people putting in place whichever tenant they want.
And how do the hotel guests and the tenants mix? Do they have much crossover there, or do you have much feedback around that?
Yeah, we haven't had any complaints to date. The elevator, in the case of this, there's 4 elevators. So the hotel gives you the benefit of coming in off the street. You've got that friendly face as you enter, which is added security. So that's a benefit. On top of that, in this example, you've got a gym, which is predominantly for the hotel guests, but the residences will have the ability to use that. And then as far as interaction, it's really the elevator. It's going into one of the 4 elevators and saying, hi, where are you from? Nice to meet you. And then you carry on to your floor. They get off at theirs. You know, each level is individually locked off with the keypad. So it's very secure. You can't simply walk through the building at your disposal.
Does that mean that you can't have Airbnb rentals in this building?
So the Airbnb rentals, not to my knowledge. We don't put anything in place to prevent that.
So the body corporate wouldn't have rules to say that?
It's Auckland Council that often do that. So where we do have, and I was sort of going to get to that question, I wondered whether you want me to go there. So there's the hotel component, which we've sort of briefly touched on. Then you've got the residential apartment, and then there is a middle ground, and that's called a VA, a visitor accommodation. So that's a larger 1-bedroom studio, dual key, where you're effectively giving a management right to the hotel. That's how we run it. So we'll take the management rights and we'll put guests in your unit. So that can and must only be for short-term stay. You can't stay in that unit, from my recollection, for longer than 6 months.
Right. So what you're saying is an individual investor here can use this product and rent it out through the hotel chain if they want to.
If they want to, if it works for both parties.
And what is the management cost on that?
Couldn't tell you the management costs. It's done on a split, so it would be 60% to the investor and 40% to the hotel, and that covers the cleaning, the management, everything that goes with it.
And you said the gym can be used for tenants. Is that at a cost, or what's the deal there?
No, the way we want to do it is that we'll put inside the body corporate to make sure that our purchasers of the residences and their tenants can have access to that gym. It's just a nice thing to have.
One of the challenges around body corporate is escalating costs over time. So we've seen that quite a lot in Wellington, for example, with the increased premiums on insurance. Does your body corporate accommodate things like a long-term maintenance fund? Has it gone into all of that?
We put in place an independent body corporate. So all our body corporate rates that are set on the project that are on our portal for everyone to see and for our purchasers to see, that's done on a body corporate budget. We hand our plans over to our body corporate third party and they do a budget. We then get them to update it every 6 months, or in the event that there's something different, like if we go and change the whole landscaping, for instance, we'll give it back to them and say, can you please revisit that?
Historically, Simon, dual key apartments haven't seen the same growth as a standard 2-bedroom apartment or townhouse. I see last year the apartment sales were 24.6% slower than townhouse and home sales throughout Auckland. What do you see the growth like projected over the next few years for these dual keys?
Yeah, I'll go back to what I mentioned earlier, and that's how we price it. We see growth in our product, and we're often investors in this specific project. The 4 top floor unit dual keys are actually held in-house, as are 2 below that. So we see a huge potential growth through this unit type, and that's because of how we price it. We're an investor-based and investor-focused developer, and so we have to look at our numbers pretty carefully.
Looking at long-term for our investors, I need to be sure they have multiple exit plans. Is there a possibility to open up the dual key apartment to be a traditional 2-bedroom apartment to be sold like that, or are they specifically set as a dual key apartment?
Yeah, good question. Specifically, it's one title, so I think you'd have to get body corporate support for that, and I've not had anyone do that. I've not seen that done. But of course, the wall in between the units is non-load bearing, so structurally it wouldn't be an issue. It's really just, that's a good question. I'd have to look into that and come back to you.
Thank you.
Simon, one of the challenges that I've seen people with buying dual key apartments is the inability to get normal lending on that. So because it's a unique product, getting a 80% loan, for example, might be a challenge. What have you found your investors be able to borrow from an LVR perspective?
We don't get too involved in that side of it, to be honest with you. That's something, we have mortgage brokers that we can recommend people talk to. A lot of our investors, or a lot of our purchasers are investors, as I mentioned, so majority of them coming with equity in their existing properties. So we don't typically see a first-time home buyer saying, gee, it'd be great to get an 80% loan on this. It's more that cash cow for an investor.
The challenge is, of course, whether or not you're putting in a 20% deposit, so 200,000 roughly, compared to a 50% deposit of, say, 450, makes quite a big difference in terms of your return on investment. And so when you say a lot of investors buy these, of the entire complex, how many do you expect to sell to investors, and how many products do you expect to sell to owner-occupiers?
The dual keys?
No, the whole project.
The whole project? It's been a mix to date. We've gone fairly well out of the gate with the sales. The dual key is predominantly an investor-based product. The studios are typically the last to sell, and that's because once it's completed, people come along and pay cash. It goes back to your question about funding. Right now, it's being led by owner-occupiers. A few investors have bought 1-bedrooms because of the price point, starting at $599, but predominantly they're the ones that are being picked up right now by owner-occupiers.
And how many dual keys in this entire complex?
This entire complex would have around about 25 dual keys.
Right. And how many are just normal units?
In total, the total count for the whole project is 170 apartments.
Including the dual keys?
Including the dual keys.
So, you said the completion date is 2023. The rental assessments that you have obtained are obviously projected. How many opinions did you seek?
We seek several opinions, 2 to 3, and that's from professional bodies that project it for us. So we just give them our units, give them our mix, give them the location, and they come back, 2 to 3 come back with values.
And they are reputable companies?
They are reputable companies.
I'd like to see that rental assessment.
I can give you one, actually.
Thank you.
Weirdly enough, I was just reviewing the numbers. So there you go.
Thank you.
Always on the lookout for false figures, the Queen of Bean will give her own hawk-eyed assessment of the developer's estimated rental rates.
While Linda's reading that, who do you think the right investor is for this type of product, and what makes it a good investment in your mind, Simon?
In my mind, the right investor is just someone that wants to have something that's going to be fairly cash flow positive at the end of the day. I mean, make use of the low interest rates right now. Make use of the time. You know, we see all these capital gains over the last period of time. The benefit of buying off the plans with an example like this is that it's 2 years away. So you get to lock in today's value. You can park it, not worry about it, put down 10%, and in 2 years' time, you settle and off you go. The other benefit for us is or benefit to doing business with us is we're trying to be innovative. So one of the things we've done with this one is if you put down your 10% deposit, we'll give you 2% interest that'll be accredited upon settlement. So get your money working for you. If it's sitting in the bank, we'll give you double what the 18-month rate is right now, and that's why. So on top of that, I would say anyone that wants to retire with some cash flow, this is a good option because it really is a good cash flow opportunity.
And what happens if the price goes down over those 2 years? If you guys have been going so long, you're obviously operational in the GFC. I remember people settling on properties that were worth less than what they paid for them. Have you seen that before?
We've never had that, and I'm proud to say we've never had that. Never have we ever, including Queenstown through the last little blip, have we ever seen a project valued down from where we had sold it.
Okay, why do you think that is?
It goes back to how we price our projects, making sure that it makes sense for the investor. So if you look at that dual key, you'd have to go a long way for it not to make sense. I mean, catastrophic rental decreases and all the rest of it, which I can't see happening given what the government's doing and given where we're heading.
Simon, thank you for that rental assessment. Just looking at these figures, I think they do actually check out. My next question is around after-sales service. When these are completed, obviously the hotel is going to be looked after. What actually happens to those owners when those maintenance issues do occur?
Yeah, so we're involved the whole way through, as I mentioned, as being an investor in the project ourselves. So prior to settlement, we've got a customer care program in place. So we effectively go through it as a development team at least 3 times through each unit prior to turning over the keys. And before we actually settle, we have the purchaser has the ability to walk through that unit and mark up anything that we haven't caught. And we pride ourselves on catching 99% of things. That extends to about a year. So there's a 12-month period. If there's any issues after that where you've got defecting, we'll come back and fix it. Beyond that, we put the onus on our suppliers and our manufacturers and our trades to provide warranties. So that's sort of backed up. It's very complicated. Every trade and every piece of the puzzle, if you will, has a different time frame. But there are guarantees, warranties in place through our trades that we move forward on each project with. So we have a good relationship and they honour that.
So a door handle comes loose, you'll go back and fix it?
That's right.
Simon, you mentioned you, as a company, you're retaining some of the units. Now, you wouldn't be retaining the good units and giving the duds to the investors, would you?
Well, no, we don't have the capacity to retain all of the units, no, certainly not. The units that we do typically take are abnormal units, I'll put it that way. We've kept some corner units that are sort of small and strange. They work out on a square metre rate quite well, but for one reason or another, investors often leave them behind. So we do pick up some of those. As I mentioned, we have taken a couple of those top floor dual keys just because they are pretty cool, but there's additional top floor dual keys as well. So plenty available.
Simon, as I mentioned at the front of your presentation, I love cash flow and these cash flow really well. I do have some concerns around the resales of dual key apartments in particular. That's why I mentioned the question of converting them. And historically last year, the Auckland apartment sales were 25% slower than townhouse and home sales. But saying that, this provides a particular component to our investors' whole investment picture, and it provides the cash flow. And for that reason, I'd like to do a deal.
Simon, I really like the flexibility of the development. I like the location and amenities in the area. The distance to the train station is a definite bonus. I think the rents are on mark, and so today I'd like to make a deal.
I don't like being in these positions because it means it doesn't matter what my decision is. Simon, you gave a great pitch, great product. One of the 2 components that we look at most of all is what is the product and who are the people. I think Safari Group have got a good track record. From my research, you guys finish projects on time and the product comes out at a high standard. But this is about the numbers. So the return on investment that I get is 361% using our standard formulas and allowing for higher interest rates than we've got today, which we've got to remember right now they're 2.5%, but they'll be 5% in, say, 7 years' time. Even on that basis, these have got a positive cash flow of $175 a week by my calculation, which is great. So I think these aren't for every investor, but for someone looking for cash flow to either top up some growth properties or for people who are entering retirement or soon to enter retirement, these are a great product. So I want to do a deal as well.
Thank you.
And Simon.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Great pitch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you very much.
And so Simon becomes the first developer to leave the deal with a clean sweep. Simon, congratulations on doing a deal with the Dealmakers.
Thank you.
Now, you were a bit nervous before you went up and talked to them. What's it like once you're actually up there talking to them?
It's a lot tougher than I thought it would be, to be fair. You got to think on your feet and get the facts out and get them clear and hopefully concisely enough that they can digest them. So very much harder than I thought it would be.
And what was the toughest part of it up there?
Certainly felt like you're put under pressure when they start picking a thread and going after it. So I think I gave the right answers where they sort of back out of that, I guess, and were satisfied with my responses. But that's when you get a little bit nervous, is when you might think you might have said something that they're grabbing onto and again, there's nothing there, but then you start to feel the blood pressure go up, like they're going after you for something.
Well, the good news here is that you have made a deal with the Dealmakers. So what's next for you and Safari after this project?
Mate, this is the highlight of my life. This is unbelievable. You know, developers are the #2 bad guy in movies behind drug dealers. So I think I've done my little bit today to make that a little bit better. For us, it's the same as what we do. We'll find another site or two and we'll carry on. This one's going very well, and you just watch and see what we launch next.
Now, because you've done a deal today, these properties are going to be on offer for investors right around the country. We look forward to seeing them built, seeing them tenanted, and eventually returning those returns for the investors.
As do we.
Thanks so much, Simon.
Thank you very much.